Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to this evening's entertainment. Hopefully, everybody will enjoy it, and I'm not sure that you'll learn a tremendous amount tonight, but hopefully, it's, as we always say, nice to see somebody else's images and to share in their photography. So yeah, hopefully it should be okay for you all. Just getting me pens and bits of paper and everything organised. So let's have a look who's with us tonight. Doreen was first one in. Are you sitting in the dark again tonight, Doreen? I know you like to sit in the dark, but you may be, you may not. Evening, Tony, Jill, Richard. Who else have we got? Richard. Going down the list. Doreen's brain hurts. I've been at work, but in lunch hour did an online course about recording Roman coins. That sounds interesting, Doreen. Evening, Dane. Sue. In fact, Dane, I should say g'day, mate. Who else have we got? Diva. Good evening, Diva. And I'll just say the usual good evening to Crispine. And also to Jan, if you're listening. So welcome to you both. Who else have we got? Grahame H. Good evening, Graham. And I've said Sue, I do believe. Good evening, Richard. I think Richard, I forget who I've said hello to. But, right. Who else have we got? Peter. Good evening, Peter. And Jim. Good evening, Jim. God, I'm still scrolling. Good evening, Jill Pardo. Welcome to yourself. We'll be able to get out and enter the low light photos, although it's now dark in the morning. I have to eat porridge with lights on. Good evening, Vera. Good evening, Vera. Who else have we got? Good evening, Caroline and Dave. Or Dave and Caroline, whichever way you want to be known. My little moderator's in. Good evening, Neil. I hope you logged on just in case. So hopefully you are. We're up to 5-2, so I'm just going to... well, for a start, I'll just say a bit about what we're doing this evening. I'll just see if it works first, see if it's there. Let's just click that screen on just for a minute. So this evening's talk I put together 3 years ago, and it was something that I thought I'd do just as a bit of a talk for the members, and so some of you will have seen it, but there is a big but here. I've probably added another 75 images from the files, so that it just makes it a little bit more interesting for those people who saw it the first time round. But I'm sure that a lot of you haven't, so fingers crossed. Hopefully everybody will enjoy it, even seeing it again. Thank you, Neil. Good evening, Bob. Just see Bob's popped in. Yes, we're all keeping well, and I hope you've remembered to get your drink with you, Bob, just in case you get a little bit dry mouth during the time. Lovely. Thanks very much, GH. Evening, Alan. welcome to you all. Yeah, everybody's in. So, right. The first little notice for you all is we've got, on some occasions, a little bit of an issue with images and file names not showing up, simply because people have added the little speech marks at either side of the image. If you add speech marks, commas, hash, and a lot of those type of bits and bobs like that, then the image is there, but it often doesn't show at our end. So when you do a title, just put in the usual title, your initials, and the bits and bobs that you're asked for at the time for the specific competition, and not any commas or anything like that, any speech marks, bits and bobs, etc. So just make sure that you keep it nice and clean, just text, just with a space between the bits where you want it to be. So, right, the next one, don't forget that the next monthly competition, once again, I can't tell you what it is, basically because I can't remember and I don't know whether I even knew, but it finishes on the 5th of... I've actually put the 5th of March, but as you all know, I mean the 5th of November. So that finishes on the 5th of November. The reason why this time is because Bob has to get it judged, ready for myself to judge the finals on the later in the month. So make sure that you get all of your entries in for the November and the final one for this year. The November monthly competition needs to be in by the 5th. So that's that one. As I've told you before, we're having not a competition, a meeting with the Halifax Photo Society. Now, the reason for this is that John, the now president of Halifax Photographic Society, was one of our members in the past, who was chairman, competition secretary, and helped me a lot in the early days. And so we said we'd get together and have a bit of a show of images. So what I'm asking for is some images from your good selves, minimum, absolute minimum of 5, but anywhere up to sort of 15 images to show to them, and the theme is Lincolnshire. So anything from Lincolnshire put into there, and a little bit of short sentence, so really it's a description of where it is, what it is, and if you want to, why you took it. You know, if you just say, well, my genre of photography is churches, then people understand what we're all about at Dunham Camera Club. So it just helps them to understand us. We've all travelled nowadays, but some people basically come across to Lincolnshire, they go to Lincoln, they go to the cathedral, the castle, and you know, that's it for some people. So let's have your Lincolnshire pictures in. Now, when you put them in, go to Dropbox, and I did say put them in your own Dropbox, but in the external competitions folder, there is a specific folder that says Halifax competition, or not competition, Halifax Lincolnshire images or something like that. So as long as you see the word Halifax, then you know you need them into there. Little bit of a strange blackout there for a second on my screens, but we're all back again now. So yeah, pictures in. Now they want to be in for the 12th of November at the very, very latest. So, right, that's just brought us nicely up to 7 o'clock. So, what we've got for you this evening, I'm just switching my heater down. It just getting a little bit warm here. What we've got for you this evening, as it says here, birds of Australia. Not every image comes out perfect, so you'll get the gist as we go along. So I'm just going to get rid of myself so that you can see the pictures in their full glory. So why the images that are in the what you're going to see this evening are from a twofold really. It was a holiday of a lifetime with family, plus it was a case that my eldest daughter had just got married, and this was their holiday as well with us. We all went across to Australia. I usually go every 3 years. I should be there now, but for obvious reasons I'm not. So without further ado, I'll just move my keyboard forward a touch and we'll get started. I'll just set the first one off because it's not moving itself. So, what size is Australia? Well, as you all know, extremely large. Australia covers a vast area of 2.9 million square miles. The UK covers a slightly smaller area, 233,062 square miles. So that means Australia is roughly 12.5 times bigger, or larger, whichever way you want to put it. So how we can see the difference? By showing you the size of Europe against Australia. So that's just, I know that you're all sort of following and etc. But just to give you a bit of an idea what the area is that we're talking about, because if you've been to Australia, you understand. If you haven't been to Australia, then the vastness is unbelievable. Our travels take us usually anywhere from Adelaide here, across to Melbourne, up this coast, and we've been as far as Cairns. So we've done all of this side of the country, and that's over the last 20 plus years. So we usually go mainly to Melbourne and to Brisbane because we've got friends there. One of my old schoolmates is in Brisbane, and we stay with them, and we go to see people that we know in Melbourne, and to be quite honest, others in between. So that just shows you a bit of the size of Australia. So first 3 weeks, what was we expecting to do? We was based when we came to Mount Macedon. So we landed in Melbourne airport. We was based in Mount Macedon at a absolutely brilliant place, undescribable unless you saw it, but it was an amazing place. Because there was a number of us, we chose a larger place, etc. And we were travelling up to Echuca, Swan Hill, Mildura, Broken Hill. You get to here, and we just took a little sideways offshoot to White Cliffs, and then Cobar, Dubbo, Bungendore, and Bungendore is within 20 minutes from Canberra. That's why we went there. And then we travelled back down to Alexandra where we finished. So it was a fairly vast area that we was going to. Mount Macedon to Broken Hill, 498 miles. Broken Hill via White Cliffs, 819. Bungendore to Alexandra, 455. So you can see we're talking total amount 1772 miles just for that little corner visit. That corner visit is that little bit down there. So when you think of the area that we're covering, then you know it is a short little trip across Australia. A large map to show you the vast area called Australia. Through this journey we went through 3 time zones. So you do, as you're travelling, you do go through different time zones in the country, and from one side of the country, top to bottom, left to right, you do pass through a lot of time zones. And of course, you get rid of a lot of petrol. But the advantage is, at the time, it was 79 pence a litre. So... and I must admit at that time we were still around the 110, 115, so it is a lot cheaper. So how many birds could I see in Australia and offshore islands? Good evening, Caroline, just see you've popped in late. No problem, hope you've had your tea. I could have seen 898, and these pictures are taken from Wikipedia from the 2014 census. If you go to look into what they are, 165 were recorded as accidental visitors. So as any of the bird watchers amongst you know, we get them here. We get rarities that drop in because of wind changes, because of this, that and the other. So we do have incidental birds that just, or accidental birds that just drop in. Of the 898, 45%, that's 404, are endemic. That means that they're found nowhere else on Earth. So it is a big, big number. Possibility that 10% of those birds could be extinct by the year 2100. Right, how many birds in the UK? We've got 598 if you look at Wikipedia. If you look at the RSPB list, it's 268 birds in 55 families. 603 according to the BTO, that's British Trust for Ornithology. That was February 2017 when I put this together when I got home. So, as usual, nobody's really sure about anything in the UK. So, right, so what did we see in the first 3 weeks? I say the first 3 weeks because the family was with us during the journey that you saw earlier, but then Di and I stayed for another 2.5 months, so we had just over 3 months in total. Lots and lots. Unbelievable time. Every time we go, we see no end. So where do we start? You know, you've got to start somewhere with showing you the various birds. So to start with, there's the lesser shoed dipper. That's the wife just coming out of the water. So nice smiley face for you to start with. Right, let's get to some serious stuff. This was literally the first bird that I took. It was fairly close to me, but in a very, very difficult dark position. It was early morning, as you can see from the dew on the grass, and it was under a hedge, and that's what you can see, that dark area on the right hand side. So it was a difficult shot for the first one. But then you go on to, I've mixed in some pictures for you so that you can just get a flavour of what happened whilst we was there, where we went and this, that and the other. Well, this was in the gardens of where we were staying. We were staying in a 4-bedroomed, what they called cottage, and the main house was a 9-bedroom place. It was humongous. So, but this apparently was, before it was turned into this pond, it was when the old building was there, it was a bather's pool. So they would bathe in this pool in its heyday. This was the place that we stopped in, wooden in build, but in Australia there are a tremendous amount of buildings which are wooden, even though they have so many fires. In the garden there was various large objects, pergolas and various things. Now I must admit I took some lovely pictures of my daughter across at the can't think what they call that at the moment, but that thing with the dome on the top. And you have to get across these stepping stones. That is the only way to it. Now when she had a wedding dress on, trying to hoist it up, not to tread on it and not to fall in the water, and trying to get across these stepping stones, which were literally about as big as your foot, not much bigger, so it wasn't an easy task. In that particular water around that those stepping stones, this was about the second bird I took, the Pacific black duck, very very similar to our sort of teal with that greeny blue wing there. So the welcome swallow is the name for their swallow that's very very similar to ours. Naturally I just tried to give you a bit of a show. Some of them you'll get two pictures like this, maybe one in flight, one sat, but just to show you the differences. Of course we've all seen the pelican, and they are in abundance, especially in the little harbours, because they've learned that if they hang around the harbours when the small fishing boats come in, with Australia being such a nice warm place, the fishermen will gut the fish there in the harbour. They have benches outside, and of course they'll just sling all the guts etc to the pelicans and to the very relevant seabirds that are about. But these pelicans will walk literally up to within a couple of feet of you, hoping to get some snippets or some snacks. White-faced heron, possibly the nearest equivalent to our heron. They have about, I can't remember now, I did know at the time, but they have about 5, I think it's either 4 or 5 different herons, of which you'll see as we go through, but this is very similar to ours. The cormorants, now the black-faced cormorant, and I appreciate you can see the very dark one on the tree. That's not the black-faced cormorant. The black-faced cormorant is the lower one on the tree and the one in the picture. Just happened to be that these two were sat there together, so I thought I'll catch the two at the same time. So, but the cormorants, once again, I think there's something about 7 cormorants that they've got, all different varieties. As you can see, that black one there, very similar to ours. So, you know, there is some similarities, but they call them different names. Australasian grebe, very similar to our little grebe, but on this occasion you can see that the markings are very slightly different. This is a hen and a cockbird, so the details very good on these, and this was, I had at the time the 7D Mark II with the 100/400 and the 1.4 converter. and this was taken, and this has been cropped tremendously. So it was a picture that I only got the one chance on this, and this is the one that you're seeing. The hoary headed grebe. Once again, it's a similar looking sort of coloration as the little grebe, but this one is larger than our little grebe, so it does give you a little bit it is definitely a different bird than what we see. The great egret, the same as our great egret. We get basically the two really, the great and the little. And for anybody who doesn't know out there, you can instantly tell them apart because one's bigger than the other. No, not just one's bigger than the other. The little grebe has a black bill as well as black legs, whereas this has got the lighter beak. This is we was going along and we went to this lake. We took our barbecue. One thing about Australia, when you want to go out in the evening, if wherever you're staying doesn't have a barbecue, which is very rare, you literally go to the side of any lake, and probably about every 200 yards around the lake there's a covered area with possibly 3 barbecues in there, and you can just strike it up for free, and you just cook your cooking, whatever you've got, you wipe it clean. You know that you're going to do it, so you take some paper towel with you and you just wipe it clean when you've finished. They're all aluminium, and the next person arrives and off they go. But they are free. I say they're all free. They're not quite all free. There is the odd one or two you might have to put a couple of dollars in. So, but you're still only talking about £1 to £1.50, depending what they want. Just going back to that one, I like that one because I like the way that the reflection is in the water and the way that it looks like it's just about to grab something. You know, sort of crocodile-ish. So that was just as the sun was beginning to set, and that's looking towards the sunset at night. You get some absolutely brilliant sunsets in Australia. They're much deeper colour than ours. This one has had nothing done to it whatsoever. So you get some great sunsets. I noticed Gail's not in tonight, but she would have loved to take some of the sunsets across there. Magpie lark. Now this is in the lark family, but they just call it magpie lark for the pure reason that it's got the white coloration and the black, making it look a little bit like the magpie colour. The actual size of this bird is probably between a blackbird and a pigeon, so it's a mid-sized bird between those two. Laughing kookaburra. Now the laughing kookaburra, there is a few different kookaburras, and the laughing kookaburra has the larger head. As you can see, even though the head of the bird is further away, it still shows up as a larger head on the body, and it is. Kookaburras are probably, just trying to think now, probably just a bit bigger than a pigeon. So, but the bill is very strong and very, very large for the size of the bird. This one was taken in amongst all the trees, and it was covered quite a bit, so had to do a few quick settings changes as we went along. So just looking at times, etc., and where I'm going, I'll have to start going a little bit quicker. Silver gull. This is very much like our black-headed gull, but it doesn't have the black head, but it's about the same size as the black-headed gull. Wood duck. I saw this mum, the one on the right, and I saw the little brood that was following her, and so I thought I've got to get close up and get one of the little ducklings, and she was quite good. She stood and she didn't run, and the little ones were a little bit more apprehensive, but I managed to get down and get this shot of this little one. So I always like the detail in that shot. It would be probably about 4 or 5 meters away, something like that. So they'd just come out of the water, but of course they dry so quick with the temperature. Australasian darter. Such a long pointed beak, this one. People do mistake it in Australia for the cormorants and one of those family, but it is a darter. The darters in Australia are different than cormorants. On to the more like budgie type birds. This is a rosella. A rosella is probably 1.5 to 2 times bigger than the budgie. Just try and give you a little bit of information as we go along. Some of these I only ever saw one. This one isn't a perfect shot. It's a little bit soft because the focus is picked up. Possibly, to me, the sharpest bit is this twig here. But nevertheless, I got the record picture, and that's what you want, isn't it? Singing honey eater. They have a tremendous amount of honey eaters. This one was probably not far off, 100 yards away, 100 meters away, and it is cropped tremendously, hence the reason it's showing the noise in the image. So but once again, it was the only one I saw, so you know, make sure you take the picture and at least you've got a record shot. Apostle bird. This was named because it always frequents places where people gather, and of course they will always come into churchyards and graveyards in Australia, and they will hang about in the trees, so hence it got its name, apparently. That apostle bird was probably just a bit bigger than a blackbird. So Australian ringneck, another of the parrot family. You get the ringnecks, or lots of different ones which you'll see as we go through, and just off top of my head while I'm talking, none will come to my mind. The great cormorant. This is the picture. This is the one that was at the top of the tree on the earlier picture. Now the great cormorant is quite a bit larger than our cormorant. It is a big bird, so, and it is black except for that head area under its eyes, etc. It is a pitch black bird. Red-rumped parrot. Once again, now this was another one that I only saw the once, and I'm actually shooting straight into the sun. Hence the reason that the blue sky has gone white, and I've just lost the detail in the sky, and it looks very milky. I haven't done a tremendous amount of work on these photographs. They are as you see them, so but yeah, very difficult lighting in Australia. You'll get birds like these western corellas which are sat in the trees in the shadows, but you've got such intense light coming in from the background. So, you know, you do get some real hard light that you've got to work with. Mistletoe bird. Funnily enough, this little mistletoe bird, this was the only good shot that I got. It never sat still. It's on the move all the time. And I was just popping pictures off, trying to get a good one, and this is as good as I got. So, but once again, it's a record shot. So, kites. They have, I do believe, 5 kites. This one, if you can see in the claw there, you can just see remnants of a bit of something. I'm not saying what because I don't know what, but the remnants of something in its claws. This is possibly the nearest looking to our red kite. It's got a bit of reddish colour in its feathers, bit of white towards its wingtips, and it's got a bit of a V in the tail, but you will see some others later on. Right, Silverton. Silverton, we're on the journey now, about halfway round. Oh, you know, I've just seen that there's my 2 daughters and their godmother there who came with us. But Silverton, a lot of you that watched this before will know what Silverton's famous for. It is in the middle of nowhere. If you wanted to be somewhere black, you are there. This place is probably an hour and a half's drive from the next town or city, which is then another 6 hours from the next city. So, you know, you are talking about being a long way from anywhere. To give you a clue, if you look at the car, some of you will already have got it, but there you go. The Interceptor Love Child story. I'm not going to read all of that to you, but it is all about the Mad Max story, because Mad Max, the films, the early films for Mad Max were made here at Silverton. You can look out, and I think there's a picture in a minute, but you can look out and it's just flat for miles. There is 1 or 2 buildings still left upright. If I say 1 or 2, there's probably about 12 in Silverton, and that's about your lot. But yeah, it's a lovely place, and you can't get away from the UK. You know, I saw this steam engine and Old Silverton Jail, historical museum. We went to have a look round it, and as you all know, Australia, they sort of say historical. Historical is from the mid to the late 1800s. But where does it come from? Marshall and Son, Gainsborough. So all the way there, and you see something from just up the road. The old local magpie. Now their magpies are the opposite way round to ours. When I say that, the coloration. So the white bits on ours are black on theirs, and the black bits are white, etc. But these are just 2 totally different birds, these, from totally different place. But I just thought once again I'd put a couple in. This old dog, he was just sat there on the veranda in Silverton watching the life go by. Nothing fazed him. People could walk by. There wasn't, I mean, when you talk about visitors, this place probably had a dozen visitors whilst we was there. That was it. Very rugged, very old place. A lot of it tumbled down accordingly. The galah, if anybody watches Neighbours, they have a galah on Neighbours now and again, or they used to. But I actually went past this one, and then I went back and took the picture, and I'm really pleased I did, because the lighting's good on it and I got some good detail. beautiful detail in the bird and a little catch light in the eye. Typical outback road. This is just going out of Silverton. Further down the road you can drive for hundreds of miles on these roads, and if you happen to get a bit of a puddle like this, after a heavy rain, bit of water in the middle, just leave it and go round it. You know, it's hard enough. Just run over all that brash and make a new road. So it'll dry up one day and you can go back to your normal place on the road. Left behind, yeah. Apparently the camels were imported to Australia, and once they finished with the camels in the days when they used them for carting things about, they just set them free. So there is areas where there is dozens and dozens and hundreds of camels, and they do now and again have to have a cull in certain areas to keep the camels down, as so they do with the goats. The goats are a really bad problem as well. Roads, you can set your car going on cruise control, and you could probably leave it on cruise control for anywhere 100, 150 mile, and all you ever see is another little hill in front of you, and you do see a lot of mirages. The water effect on the road, tremendous amount of mirages. Cobar, we're just over halfway round now, and this is an old gold mining town. So this is one of the things that they have at a particular place where they used to sift all the soil for the gold. Now I've put this one in so that in your head, get your head around the size of the trailer and the size of the tyres on the trailer, and then the size of the tyres on the actual trailer itself, because this next image, this little blob down there has tyres on it that you've just seen on the trailer. This is New Cobar Mine, and it's the modern gold mining way, and they just do this. They keep blasting until they get down, and they've taken everything to as deep as they want, and then they dig a hole and they can go a mile, 2 miles underground just to get the gold out of the ground. Some people, they just make a this is a massive hole, but they make such a massive quarry that it's just unbelievable, the size of it. So that just shows you another one of the area. Not very square, is it? But nevertheless, it just shows you the area and the size. Now put yourself back to the 1800s in a different form of gold mining, and this is down this right hand side. This is the old gold mine shaft from those that dug it by hand and dynamite. So that's the old mine shaft going down there to the mine. There's one of the lorries. I've zoomed right in, one of the trucks coming out, and those tyres, as I said, are the size of the tyres from the trucks, etc. So emus, the only non-flying bird. So you see dozens and dozens of the emus going up the side of the road. It makes you wonder what on earth they managed for such a large bird, what they actually find to eat, but they survive. Then you go the opposite way round, and these are the little superb fairy wrens. Those of you who put images onto the Albany site will have seen Sean putting his pictures of a wren on a Wednesday, and these are they. Now they are about the same size as our little wrens, but they have lots of them. When I say that, probably another 3 or 4, 4 or 5 different sorts across Australia. Now, they're not in, you might find one in the east, but you wouldn't find it in the west. So they don't get about all over Australia. But they are lovely little birds. This is the Sommerez homestead. This was built in 1888. We weren't allowed in this one because it's still a living premise, but you are allowed to do what we're doing now, and that's walking around it and take pictures. And then you're allowed to go down onto the old farm and you get some of the nice buildings. I would absolutely love to go to these sort of places with my night photography now. It would be absolutely brilliant. The old houses, the old foreman's house, the old barns, etc. Local road trains. When you're travelling to these places, you pass these road trains. 3 is around an average sort of size, but you can get them up to 6 trailers behind. So, you know, they are enormous. And you can travel on some of these roads for an hour and a half, and you'll only pass one vehicle. That's it. You know, you don't see anything. You don't see any buildings. All you see now and again is a bit of a turn off into the desert, and off it goes across country, and you can't even see where the road goes to. Left to right, once again, what a superb piece of vehicle to light paint at night. Absolutely brilliant. So next time I'm going out there to get some of these, because these, you can be going up the road and there's cars everywhere. When I say everywhere, you know, they are literally, they break down on the side of the road and they just leave them. That's it. That's where it stays. White plumed honeyeaters, lovely little bird. I got on to doing some stars at White Cliffs. Just did some star trails. Now, don't forget, in Australia, you're in a different hemisphere, so you can't go by the North Pole any longer, so they go by the Southern Cross. And the Southern Cross is the centre of their universe. So the streaky bit you can see across here, oops, I've gone one too many, let me just go back a second. The streaky bit that you can see across here, it's the Milky Way. So that's the Milky Way across there. I know, Jill, we'd love those to do some light painting on, wouldn't we? And there's my best one of the Milky Way. I can't for the life of me work out why I didn't put it in the middle of the picture. But nevertheless, that's what I got. And I was absolutely delighted with it. The thing is, we don't get the Milky Way in a horizontal position very often in the UK. We just get the core showing, and it's mainly upright in a vertical orientation, so a bit different in Australia. Now there's a little bit of a story to this one. Wedge-tailed eagle even. I saw these eagles as we was travelling past, and I if I wasn't driving, I always sit with the camera on my knee. It's never set right. So we was going from right to left, and I just saw these, whipped round quick and took a picture. And I told Dan, my son-in-law, to pull up, and so we pulled up. And why this picture turned out and why this one turned out like this, I'm not too sure. They must have been just sat still. But what happened was, I realised afterwards that I'd got the camera on HDR from doing some morning sunrises. And so that was the HDR shot of birds flying, which just doesn't work. And in the end I did get one, but it wasn't in good lighting conditions, because once again I was shooting totally up into the brightness of the sky, and it just didn't work properly. So, but at least I got it. Absolutely brilliant bird. Very, very large, very large. On to the typical coastal scenes. This is a typical coast scene in Australia. You could probably walk along a piece of beach coast like this, and you could probably meet anywhere from nobody to 3 or 4 people, and it just goes for miles and miles. Sand dunes, and across there you're allowed to buy a license. If you've got a 4x4, you're allowed to buy a license to drive along the beaches, but you do have to buy a license, else you will get fined. Ebor Falls, there's another story to this one. I got out of the car, and I've been to Ebor Falls 3 times. It's across in the Blue Mountain area, to the side of Sydney, and I was taking this picture, and I was stood on this viewing platform, not thinking. I decided that what I would do is I would rest my arms on the rails, and took a few pictures, and I lifted my arm up, and all of a sudden something had felt like it had stung my left arm, and I thought, blah hell, that was a bit sharp. So I just rubbed it, didn't see anything, never even thought about it, and I got back to the car, which was probably about 15-20 meters away, and I said to Di, God, I've got something on my arm, I think I've been bit. And I said, oh, it'll be all right, you know, I don't, it's perfectly all right. But so gets into the car, puts my camera away. I always put it behind the driver's seat when I'm driving, and I got about, I don't know, half a mile up the road, and I pulled onto the side of the road because, of course, as I've just said, you don't have people coming, very little traffic. I said, hey, Duck, you're going to have to drive. My arm is absolutely killing me. And I went for about another hour, and this arm was driving me insane. So from there on, I always look where I'm putting my arms before I just slot them onto anything. There's an unusual picture for you, isn't they? It's a picture of a tree. A lava tree. It's a setting just outside of a very large storage works, and I thought that was brilliant. So very apt. Peregrine falcon, very nice bird. That was in Cobar. This is in Cobar. This was another monument to the miners of the past. White ibis. They have, once again, 3 or 4 different ibis. So I think I've got 1 or 2 others. Crested pigeon. Nice image. I didn't have long to get this one, but when they put their wings out, these colours are absolutely beautiful on the wings. When they fly, they're absolutely stunning. The Blue Mountains, a little bit of a story for anybody that saw the news last Christmas time with all the fires in Australia. We've just heard today that they've got a massive replanting program on for the various areas, because what you're looking at here, you're probably looking to that first set of mountains here. you're probably looking about, as the crow flies, 3 mile away. And probably in one of these fires, everything there, the whole lot will have gone. Absolutely gone. Now, the fires do go through the trees so quick that mostly they will regenerate and regrow again. But in some areas, if there isn't quite the wind, because you get quite a strong wind in Australia all the time, and that pushes the fires on, and the fires can travel anywhere up to 50 mile an hour, and that is shifting when it's fire coming towards you. I've seen it go across areas, and you do not, if you see that, you go in the opposite direction. But it's absolutely terrifying. Brown honey eater, that was at my friend's house in Brisbane. He lived on at a little place called Bribie Island. Bribie Island's quite an exclusive island. He was just renting a property there between properties, because he always builds very large properties that then they sell them again, and then he builds a new one. Or he's a security company, so he has all the top-notch stuff in it, etc. Teresian crow. That bridge at Sydney. We all know about that bridge at Sydney. So the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Been there twice to Sydney. Not a big fan of Sydney, to be honest. For us, it's a bit too busy. This time when we went, 2017, it was very, very dull. So hence the bad pictures. Opera House. Starling. Shooting through a little few now. There's another cormorant, little pied cormorant. Pink-eared duck. Now those pink-eared ducks were on this little lake, and they would probably be, I honestly don't know how far, probably about 600 or 700 meters away, and they were specks in the picture, so that's as good as I could make them. And yes, they do have grebes across there. Red-browed finch. Flame robin. Lovely little bird. Diamond firetail. Really annoyed about this picture because I'd had my camera set for a dark area, and I saw this little firetail, and I picked the camera up, took the picture, and it was totally overexposed, and I've brought that back no end, and it just flew off just the second I took the picture. So, but I got it. It's a record shot. Australian pipit, lot like our meadow pipit. Lapwing, very much like ours, but different face and much longer legs, and it's bigger actually. It's probably twice the size of ours nearly. But lovely bird, lovely detail on it. Little willy wagtail, their tails going like ours all the time. Sulphur crested cockatoo. We went to Canberra, and we're stood with our back to the War Memorial, the War Museum, and we're looking towards Parliament House. There's two parts to Canberra. There's a big river goes through the centre, and we're looking at from one half to the other half. Dusky wood swallow, not a very good picture, shooting into the sun again. Brown falcon, no, nothing like ours really, Paul. Well, it's bigger, and it's got the name lapwing. Brown falcon, just caught it as it was taking off. Dan was driving again, son-in-law, and I just says, whoa, 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 there's a bird up there. We pulled up, just grabbed the shot, and that was it. Crimson rosella, grey shrike thrush. Somebody's calling, but don't worry about that. Everywhere. Oh, let me go back one. Dead trees, they are literally everywhere. So what it is because of the dryness of the country, the trees absorb, and there's a tremendous amount of salt in the ground in Australia, and if it goes dry, it absorbs the salt and kills the trees. That was our car at the time. We just had a Hyundai. So, and there's another typical shot. We're just driving around the local lanes, and it's just dead trees everywhere. New Holland honeyeater, pied currawong. So it's very much sort of like our. It's smaller actually. It's probably just a little bit bigger than a blackbird, but it's such a heavy beak, and it's sort of in the COVID family with the jackdaws, etc., etc. Yellow rump thornbill, straw-necked ibis. You can just see that that colour of the straw colour on its front there, so hence the name. That was a picture that was from a long way off. So now there's a story behind the Muscovy ducks. In the UK we just say, well, they're farm duck, which they are, but Australia, they say, well, because these birds have been in the wild and have survived in the wild for so many years, they class them now as a bird in its own right. So but it did derive from a farm bird. Australian shelduck, it's their shelduck just like ours, but once again, Paul, totally different. Same name. Red wattlebird. Now there's a red wattlebird and there's other wattlebirds, and the wattle is this little bit that dangles here. It's like it's like a little bit of skin, and it just dangles from under its chin area. So we're parting company with the family now. We've done this area, we've been right round, and if you'd done it all in one go, it would have taken you 30 hours, and it's 2,742 kilometres. We're heading back into this area here. So at the moment, we're ending up here in Alexander, and we're going down to a little place somewhere in here. It's not actually on the map, but we're going to end up here where my pointer is. But that was where we got down to this area, and we said cheerio to the family, and that was the start of our own adventures. So I started taking pictures in the local area. This is a striated paralote. Once again, they have some lovely birds, and I absolutely love their little kestrel. It's called a Nankeen kestrel, and it's it's lighter than ours, and it's such a superb bird. And of course, the black swan. Got to have a black swan, ain't you? So, long-bill corella. The earlier one that you saw, the two birds in the tree, they were short-billed. These are long-billed. So, same family, different birds. This next one, that picture is a picture at about just before sunset. And as you can see, if you look up at the top, you can just see that this picture is a reflection in the water. That's not a tree, that is a reflection in the water. And I couldn't get any more of it in because that was the extent of my lens that I'd got on at the time. But I just liked it because it was the water was just dead still, absolutely. And we was at a farm, we stayed on a farm at Metcalfe, Kinross. grey teal. As you can see, for the bird people that we know, we've got this wing colour here, like we know of. White-necked heron. One flying, one probably about the same size as for those birders among us, our great white. Little raven, that's equivalent to our jackdaw, so that sort of size. Eastern yellow robin, they've got a few robins and a lot of tree creepers. This is a white-throated tree creeper. Brown tree creeper. Great crested grebe, we all know the great crested grebe. Virtually identical to ours. I only saw one of these whilst I was across there, and this is the picture. Dusky moorhen. It's, funnily enough, it's larger than our moorhen. It's not as small, so yeah, the robins are very cute, Caroline. Eastern rosella. Northern mallard, that's of course the same as our mallard, well, similar. So we spent some time in Metcalfe, and then we was going to drive up to our friends in Brisbane. You could have driven in one day, but you would be extremely tired, so we had to stop off halfway just for an overnighter in a terrible place. But that's not having the knowledge. You just book a place, and it just did us as a bed overnight, but that was it. So we're up in what do you call it, and for some reason I've got another picture of the same silver gullin. Don't know why I've got two pictures of the same bird, but there's one for Jim. We saw in the UK, Jim and I arrived at Frampton one day, and everybody was saying, well, everybody, a couple of people were saying, oh, have you seen it? There's a stilt here, and they don't call them pied stilts in the UK. And we said, no, we didn't even know it was here. So we got a picture of one stilt. I sent Jim this picture in 2017 and said, look, Jim, there's hundreds of them. They're all over the place, like sparrows. Eastern curlew, just the same as ours. Noisy friarbird, ugliest bird, well, one of the ugliest birds that you can see. I just could not get a picture of it with its head round my way. I just tried and tried, but I just couldn't get a picture. And it's a honey eater bird as well. Pied butcherbird, there's a couple of butcherbirds. White-cheeked honey eater. Noisy myna bird. Now the noisy myna bird is the native to Australia. The invasive one, which you'll see in a bit, is the Indian one. But the noisy myna bird is the native of Australia. Buff-banded rail. Little wattle bird. Caspian tern. We went, my friend's got a Jeep that he bought for the dogs, and we went along the beach on it because he's got his license for the beach, and so you can just drive along the sand taking the picture of the birds. Gull-billed tern. The one on the right is in its breeding plumage, and the one on the left is in its non-breeding plumage. I don't say winter and summer because of course it's always hot up in Brisbane. Black-faced cuckoo shrike. Pale-headed rosella. The next one's one that Bob always wanted to take, a rainbow bee-eater. He was after a bee-eater. These are two different occasions, two different birds, but in the same area. Right, we're about halfway through, in fact just over halfway through, and we're at 8 o'clock, so I'll give everybody a break, and we'll see you at 10 past, ready for a quarter past start. So catch you all soon.